Hello, my name is Ian Sierra and this is the Lab 1 video report. The purpose of this lab is to calculate the amount of charge that is left on a piece of clear tape by charging two pieces of clear tape with the same charge and observing whether the top piece was able to float. This experiment uses the concepts of point charges, electric force, electric fields and interactions, and electric field superposition, which includes the formulas for Coulomb's law and the electric field equation as seen on the screen. The electric force can also be simplified to be just F equals Q times E. Gravitational force was also incorporated into this experiment, which is F equals to negative mass times acceleration due to gravity. These equations were used in the computational model to calculate the electric charge. Now on to the observations. I was able to make the base tape attract to my hand, and I was also able to make the two upper pieces of tape repel from each other as I expected. The U-tape and the neutral objects were also attracted to each other. Then I had to identify the charge of the U-tape by looking at the interaction between the tape and a plastic pen. If the U-tape was positively charged, it should have attracted the negatively charged plastic pen. If the U-tape was negatively charged, it should have repelled from the negatively charged plastic pen. A neutral U-tape should be attracted to the negatively charged pen, but we know the U-tape is not neutral because they repelled each other. I found that the U-tape was positive because the tape and the pen were attracted to each other. The main part of the experiment is to evaluate the amount of excess charge on the U-tape by making the top U-tape flow due to the bottom U-tape. I tried many times in many places to get the tape to flow, but it didn't work. So I just took the regular distance between the two pieces of tape. To determine the gravitational force on tape B, I measured the mass of the tape. I was able to find the charge and electrons on tape B by completing the calculations on the screen, using a rearranged Coulomb's law and dividing the charge by 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19 respectively. I also found the fraction of atoms that gave up electrons. Assumptions I had to make to find the charge were that the net y component of the force on the tape B is 0. Tape A exerts a mainly vertical force on the floating portion of tape B. You had to treat the long tape as if it were a point charge with all the charge concentrated at the center of the long tape, and I had to assume that each U-tape had about the same amount of charge evenly distributed along the length of the tape. Now on to the computational model. I first specified the constants that we would need to help us calculate the gravitational force, the charge, and the electric force. Then I created spheres which will represent the bottom tape and the top piece of tape. And then I specified the distance between the top tape and the bottom tape and the tape mass as the initial values. Then we move on to calculating the gravitational force, which the formula was specified earlier in the video, and also I created an arrow so it could be shown on the model. Then we move on to calculating the charge, which is calculated from Coulomb's law, a rearranged form to solve for Q. Then we move on to the electric field formula to solve for the electric field, and then we find the electric force by just multiplying the charge Q by the electric field. And we also specify an arrow for the electric field. Then we will run this program, and as you see, the bottom tape is below, and then the top tape is right here, and the red arrow represents the gravitational force, and the green arrow represents the electric force. Now on to the conclusion. If the signs of the charges were reversed, nothing would change because the tape would still be the same charge, meaning they would still repel from each other. It's important to handle the charged pieces of tape as little as possible because the tape will neutralize if it is in contact with your hand for too long since they are opposite charges. Thank you.